Dr. Kuhn, in your comments, you noted that the land-grant universities, and I'm always would be remiss if I don't remind everyone the miracle and the wonder of the Morrow Act of 1862 and the 1862 land grants and the 1890 land grants and the 1994 facilities. That opportunity for the first time truly in the history of the world for anyone with enough effort, enough energy, and some smarts to be able to secure a college education. Just an amazing thing, the land-grant universities. But you mentioned the $29 billion replacement value of the infrastructure of these facilities and the $8 billion in deferred maintenance that we face now. Could you expand for a moment on what kind of things we're talking about that $8 billion would go to, and would you explain how that would help facilitate researchers, students, and the industries that utilize all this information that's developed?
Well, thank you, Congressman. I appreciate your loyalty to the land-grant system and share your respect for it. I think where we find ourselves is we really need to we need to look at ways of solving the problem without simply going out and saying we're going to spend $8.4 billion. Because the kind of facilities, let me just use it as an example from Oklahoma State. We've got a dairy barn. It's a beautiful dairy barn built in the 40s gorgeous design and so on. Our Holsteins don't fit in it. It was built for Jerseys. Our Jerseys would probably fit in it, but they wouldn't stay in it today if we tried to put them there. And it's a gorgeous wooden roof that has no protection or prevention for a fire. And so to go in and make that a usable facility, we'd spend millions of dollars to put sprinklers in and so on and so forth, and end up with a substandard facility. So in cases like that, we're better off to do what we're doing, which is to build a new freestall barn at a lot lower cost, that's going to last for a long time. So some of it is simply replace it. But the rest of it is to as I said, to be more diligent in ourselves in using our finances to make sure that we're taking care of the facilities. And no one wants to spend money on that because it isn't glitzy and it doesn't get the attention of the public. But it's, the bottom line is it's good stewardship, and that's what we need to take on.
And those facilities enable the scientists who are also professors and teachers working with the undergraduate and graduate students to do their work. Expand on that for just a moment. Sometimes we forget that land grants are a hands-on experience.
Absolutely. Well, and one of the great risks that I fear is if we don't address this adequately, we're going to continue to lose our most valuable faculty, our greatest expertise, either to the private sector or it may be we're stealing each other's best, perhaps from one university to another. But what that means is that we no longer have that expert on our campus teaching students, either graduate students or undergraduates. In other words, we're not creating the next generation of scientists. And so it's important to have the research done, but in the process of conducting that research, we're also building in the sustainability of this whole approach to agriculture that we created beginning in 1862, where research is what's driving innovation in agriculture.
I was late this morning slightly because a number of us from the Financial Services Committee had been down to the Federal Reserve Board to visit with the chair and the vice chair and one of the governors. And we got into a discussion about productivity and the decrease in the rate of productivity improvement in this country in the last 20 years. And the bottom line from their research department was essentially we weren't investing with the intensity we had in the previous decades or century, and that this dramatic increase in productivity, which is how you increase people's standards of living, they produce more, you don't run faster, you work more efficient with more efficient processes, that we were entering a point where through a lack of investment, that rate of productivity was slowing in comparison to the rest of the world, and that if we were going to increase the standard of living, we had to enhance that, which I think tees off quite well in what you're describing about continuing the mission. Because there will come a time, correct, as you just noted, where if we don't invest enough, and that infrastructure, both physical and intellectual, will go away, and we'll never catch up once we're behind the curve.
As you know, we have a fantastic wheat breeder, Dr. Brett Carver, who heads up our wheat improvement team, and you know, he puts up with some really ugly
He could
facilities.
work on any of 4 continents if he wanted to go somewhere.
Yeah, he could. He could go anywhere in the world and be paid a lot more than we're paying him. Don't let him know that I said that. But you know, the point is, he'll probably stay with us, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure he's got great facilities. He'll probably stay with us. But who's going to follow him? How do we replace him if we don't have any better facilities than we have today?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Too much time.